So let's talk.
Let's talk. In victory we win. In victory we win.
Hey guys, it's your girl Latoya Renee and you're tuning in to Sister Can We Talk. This show is an empowerment show that allows us to uplift each other in faith, to motivate us and encourage us to believe in the impossible. Today I have an awesome guest in the building, in the studio. Her name is Miss Anita Brown. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Yes, thank you so much.
I just feel like this interview is going to be so much powerful because I love your testimony, because your testimony is about strength and overcoming trials. And so I know that a lot of us are walking in a new season in our life. So I think your testimony will speak volumes to the women out there who are viewing us right now. So let's go ahead and start on your testimony.
Okay.
And tell us from the beginning.
Oh, wow. From the beginning. I guess from the beginning, many times people begin to talk about their childhood.
Yes.
And I think psychologically, you know, I oftentimes wonder why when you go to a therapist, they always want to start from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Because in actuality, your beginning has mediated you to where you are today.
Yes.
And so I guess from the beginning as a child, I was raised by my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And how I got to my grandmother's house, it was because my mother left my father. My mother left my father, and it's so ironic. I was just talking to my older brother just the other day, and we started talking about Dad. I said, you know what? I just talked about this the other day, and how we got from where we were to,
where you are now,
to my grandmother's house. And he said, Nita, he said, you know, I was 9 years old, and then I have a 9-year-old brother, and then you got to look at all of us are like 11 months apart.
How many are you guys?
It's 7 of us.
7.
So you got my 9-year-old brother, and then you got my other brother, 8 by 11 months, and then 7 by 11 months, 6 by 11 months, 5 by 11 months.
Everybody 11 months apart.
Right, almost 11, maybe a year, if a half apart. And then you have me. I'm a year old. And
are
then
you the baby?
I'm the baby girl. And so you have all of this. And my brother, Ed, said, Nita, he said, Daddy came home from work and said, where your mama? And then he said, Mama gone. She said, what you mean your mother is gone? And she said, he said, Mama just left.
Wow.
And so that kind of spiraled some things. So that's how we began, from a 1-year-old child up into a 9-year-old brother in the house when Dad came home, and now Mom is nowhere in sight.
Wow. So when did you learn? I mean, of course you didn't know you was 1 year old. So when did you find out that your mom had left you guys?
I guess it was after. So we moved around in Jacksonville. We moved in several places. Back in the day, it was Johnson Street, then Illinois Street. I can remember living right across the street from, at that time, I think it was Shands, or Brewster's, or whatever it was back in the day. I remember we lived right there. It was those houses there. And it was a deep, 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 deep ditch there. And I can just remember playing outside. And so from moving there, and my brothers tell me that we just moved all over the place, because now my father is left with 7 children to raise. And we judged him so much. But my daddy would gamble, he would sell scraps, but looking back in hindsight, he did that for us. He did that for us. And so
it's funny because you hear about women being the single parent. You never truly really hear about dads and men being a single parent, not alone one child, but with seven kids.
But 7.
You know, and that could have been such a toll on his psyche because you're a guy, you know what I'm saying?
But what I love that my father did, and I'm so grateful, he took care of us maybe a year or two without Mom there, but he knew he could not. He knew he could not take care of 7 kids. But what he did, he took us to his mother.
Yeah.
And I am eternally grateful. We didn't see it then because, you know, we going to grandma's house, you know, grandma mean or whatever those things are. But we say, me and my siblings, when we talk, I thank God that Daddy did not abandon us.
Yes.
And we may have been hard on Daddy back in the day because all we looked at, well, you took us to grandma's house, but he took us to a safe place. And not only one of us, he took all 7 of us. Yes. And so when I grew up, I was like, oh my God, I'm so grateful that we all could have been in 7 different homes. We could have been in the system. We could have been, you know, with DCF. We could have been in 7 foster homes. And so as we got older, I began to realize Daddy did the best he could with what he had. And so we used to fault our father because now you've abandoned us. But in actuality, after I got grown, I realized he did not abandon us. He took us to the safest place
that he knew.
And that was to his mother and to his mother. And grandmother raised us. It was harsh. It was crazy in that house with 7 of us. So she did the best she could.
Yeah, it's funny that, you know, you may think one way as a child, thinking that, you know, your parents are doing, they just don't understand or something like that. But when you get old enough to have your own children and realize that, you know what, my mom or my dad did the best that they could with what they had, you know, I love that. So knowing that your mom is not, you know, with you guys, did you lose contact, or were you able to talk to your mom? How did that go?
The story went like this. After my dad moved us from that house, I can just remember, if you remember the garbage cans, there used to be those shiny silver tin garbage cans, and I remember it wasn't garbage in them, but it was all of our clothes, and it was the food that we had left from moving. And so I could see moving on 2249 West 13th Street, and just seeing us moving in. And so as children, we were happy now that we're here. And so growing up at my grandmother's house, I remember one day Mom finally came to town. And so my grandmother says to me, well, I asked her, I said, Grandma, who is that lady?
Wow.
I never, you know, as 1-year-old, I can't picture what my mom looks like. I've never seen her as far as what she looks like. And so
how old was you?
I was maybe 2 or 3 years old, and I say, who is that? And my grandmother said, that's your mama. And I was like, that's my mama? Because you were the only mama I knew. And so it just went from there. So Mama would come to town every year or so. So the story has it that Mom moved from Jacksonville to Miami, Florida. And she moved in Coconut Grove. And the bizarre thing that most of my siblings, we could not wrap our heads around after I got older, realizing that you went to Miami. And now you are in another person's home. And I'm not racist, nor am I prejudiced, but my mom had to survive. So when she left us, she went to Miami, and now she lives with the white family. And now she's taking care of their kids. And so I think there is even some bitterness even now in some of my siblings that, and then when I got old enough, I was like, I can't grab my head around this, that you would leave 7 children, and now you're somewhere else taking care of somebody else's kids. I could not fathom that. And granted, she may have had some good reasons. I think it was maybe Dad was fussing and they would fight all the time. And so I get the fact that the reason why she left was probably because I judge Mom and then I don't judge Mom. That she may have left because domestic violence, you just don't know what Daddy was beating. You don't know whether he was beating on her, you know, whatever. And I get that some of them, my auntie would tell me that, you know, your daddy would just, you know, beat on your mom or whatever. And this is going to be so harsh to hear, but the truth is the truth. And so her reasonings, may have been valid in her eyes,
Right.
but as children, we could not understand what you left us, and
Right.
so that created some issues in our
Right.
in our growing up. That Mama left us,
Yeah.
you abandoned us,
Yes.
and then not understanding Daddy's perspective in taking us to his mom's house.
Right.
Now, Dad has left
Yeah.
us, and so all of that could be why some of us grew up the way we did and
Yeah.
think the way we did
Yeah.
and did some of the things that we did.
Yeah.
But that's how I found out who my mom was.
Wow,
Through
wow.
her coming to town.
Yeah.
And she would come to town year after year, but never to reclaim all
I was
seven
gonna
of
say
us.
to spend time with you guys, or just
She would come, I guess she gravitated more to my older sister. She gravitated to my oldest sister, and she would always come to town and to her house. And so my
This is
sister,
when you guys were
when we
grown.
started getting older,
Yeah.
you know, Grandma raised us, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful. All of us graduated from high school.
Yes.
Every last one of us graduated. Some of them went into service and
Yes.
all those kinds of things. So the good thing from our childhood, which Daddy instilled in us, is that y'all gonna graduate.
Right.
And we all graduated. We oftentimes say that we're dysfunctional, but we were dysfunctional, but they made us learn. They made us get our education.
You guys stayed together.
I applaud. We stayed together.
Yes.
We
so
stayed
even
together.
if you didn't, even if you guys missed some fundamentals growing up, now you know that one of the main fundamentals is a family. You know about family. You know what I'm saying? So that's one gift your dad and your grandma gave you guys. With that, as no matter what you guys went through,
Right.
You know you have all seven.
Right,
You know
and
what
I
I'm saying?
think we talk about the dysfunction, what we didn't have, and it was seven of us, and my grandmother and my grandfather. You know, we didn't have birthday parties. You
There's a
know,
lot of
and
y'all.
we did. It's a lot of us, and so we didn't. But you know how you poor, but you didn't realize you was poor.
Yep.
So we were just excited. The things that I can remember in my grandmother's house for Christmas, we didn't never have toys, or what they called them hand-me-downs. There was always something that somebody
Else
said,
had.
you know, with Sister Perkins, we know you got all those children.
Yeah.
Here goes some toys from last year
Yeah.
that my children don't want. But you know what? We didn't even look at it like that.
Right.
We was outside. One of my brothers had one skate, and somebody else had the other skate. And back in the day, they made a slide board with the things on it,
yeah.
and I can vividly see
Yeah.
that. So we are happy to have a pair of skates, but we had two toys. We had two toys, and just, you know, having doll babies,
Yes.
and I didn't care. We had white dolls that somebody else gave
Yes.
us. The strands are missing, but we were excited. And looking back in hindsight, we didn't have all of that, but my grandmother was a phenomenal cooker.
Yeah.
She would cook a feast. She would
Yeah.
go to the farmer's market. We had nuts galore. We had oranges and tangerines.
Yes.
And, oh my God, we had feast for days around the holidays.
Yes.
And that's what we remember as children, you know, preparing for Thanksgiving,
Yes.
preparing for Christmas, and preparing for New Year's.
Yes.
We didn't have all the things that you buy from the store, but we ate like something crazy.
But you had what counted.
we had what, and we didn't even realize it.
Yes.
We didn't
Until
realize it.
until you got older and
Until
you had
we
your
got
own
older.
children, and you realized that, you know what, we did have something.
and didn't realize it.
Right.
And that's what really, really mattered, and that's what we looked forward to. And some of the kids were, you know, kids are kids, and they would highlight on what we didn't have. But in our minds,
You can't-
I got my baby brother, I got my big sisters,
Yeah.
and we were family. And so that's what mattered. And you know, just some things transpired, you know, in my childhood. Just can remember, I guess sometimes when we get older,
Yeah.
then mom looks on us and see you're successful.
Yes.
And then I can remember one phone call that mom called, and it wasn't a good phone call. And so in my mind, I was like, you should be grateful that all of your children are still alive.
Right.
None of us are in jail or
Right.
prison. We're not on gangs, but she was just caught up because I had gotten saved. The Lord came into my life at 16, and so I was 16 years old when I got born again. And so all she knew about was the church. I guess my other siblings would say, you know, Nita done got saved now. And then after that, I got married.
Yes.
To a phenomenal man.
Yes.
And so we moved. We got a good job, and we had all those things. And so when she looked at me, she saw, I think she was kind of envious that I made it.
Yeah.
And so I remember that phone call, and she said, "You think you better than us, don't you?" And I was like, "No, Mama, how do you think I think that?"
Right.
You know, because of what we live, where we live, and what we drive, and what we have. I said, "But we work for it." I said, "My husband have a good job.
Yeah.
I have a good job."
I think I think she was envious because here she is in her age or whatever, you know, and she didn't have no parts in who you guys were, and to see you so successful and to see you with the Lord, in her mind probably it was like something that she couldn't obtain.
Yeah.
And to look at you, how can you do that when I'm still trying to make it? You know what I'm saying? So how was that conversation for you? Like,
I always was in defense mode with her, and so she would come to town, and my sister would say, "Hey, Mama here," and so I would dread going to see her.
Yeah.
And the reason why I would dread, now I've gotten married, and now I already had a son. I got pregnant when I was 15, had my son when I was 16. Let me just rewind quick. And so living with my grandmother, and not really knowing the facts of life, or none of the birds and the bees or whatever. So I got pregnant at 15, and I can remember dreading to tell her because they was old school back in the day.
Yeah.
And so you know when grandmas get on the phone, they call you sluts, and they call you a hoe, and they call you all kinds of things. Well, I was called all those things.
how did you? Let's stop for a second. Okay. So. Let's stop. Because I remember the story you was telling me, how you guys went to a party or something like that.
Yes. You know what? How ironic.
Yeah.
I ran into her Friday. I said, "Gloria, girl, we just had this conversation."
Yeah.
She was like, "Nita, girl, we were out there." I said, "It's because of you. I skipped school that day to follow after you." She said, "Girl, we were wild." And it was just so ironic. And we hugged and we embraced and we talked about what happened on that day when we skipped school.
Yes.
You know, she went in one room, I went in another room. And I came out pregnant, you know. So
but you didn't know. I remember you were saying how everybody was going in separate rooms. You was trying to figure out what was going on.
I was a virgin, and I was like, hold up. I don't know why we skipped school. I don't know what the rationale was. But these cats, it was like they had a agenda. And we didn't know. We just thought we was finna go and hang out. But in actuality, these dudes had an agenda. And so I had enough sense not to be lewd. I wasn't raised that way. So I did sleep with my son's father, and that was my first time, and I didn't know what to expect, what to feel. But I do know a couple of weeks later, things didn't happen the way they were supposed to happen, and I recognized that I was pregnant. And then as a result of I was pregnant, I was afraid to tell my daddy. I was afraid to tell them what they would think, what their expectations.
How many months were you when?
Listen to me. I must not was showing good. I was at least 6 months pregnant before I even got any prenatal care. And how they found out that I was pregnant, I said, let me just make this official. And so I was late coming home from school. And so I said, you know what, I'm late. I know grandmother is gonna ask me why I'm late. This is a better time than any. So I was like, she was like, you know, walking in the house 5 or 6 o'clock knowing I'm supposed to get home at 3. And so she was like, where were you? And I said, I went to the doctor. And she was like, what are you going to the doctor for? And I said, I'm pregnant. Oh my God, you would have thought we was back in Armageddon. You would have thought that the World War had started again. And so now the news is out that I'm pregnant. And so she called my father and she tells my father, and you know, back in the day, this is what they said: Nita done got her gut stuff with baby.
Her gut stuff. Her gut stuff.
She said Nita done got her gut stuff with baby. And so that's how she presented it, and that's how she got on the phone, was telling her friends, girl, Nita done got pregnant, yada yada. So I was afraid what my daddy would do. But when I tell you, when my father came to the house, because he didn't live with us, he just brought us to his mom. So I was scared. So he said, Nita, come here, I want to talk with you. And this what blew my mind, and this is what I love most about my father. The very first words out of his mouth wasn't who the father was, where you did it, and all of that. He said, you do know you're going to finish school, right?
Come on, Jesus.
I said, oh my God. I was like, yes, sir, Daddy. Those were his comforting words to me. It wasn't what I thought. It wasn't a whipping. It wasn't a beating. It wasn't a punishment. But he said, you're pregnant, but you're going to finish school. And I was like, yes, sir. And so after that, the conversation was easy. Right. Because he done made it, you know, I'm going to finish school. So in my mind, I'm going to finish school regardless. So now after that, who the daddy was way working. We did the paternity, all of that. We did that. But sure enough, I'm in the 9th grade. I had my baby. And I graduated. So 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade, 12th grade, I graduated on time in 1982 from PAX and Go Eagles. So I graduated.
I love how you said that one of your pictures was your son on the hip.
I got my son on my hip. I do. I have that picture, and he graduated with me, and I graduated on time. And so that was a phenomenal, through everything that we've gone through and through what Mama said. You know, sometimes parents don't mean to break us with their words, but those words could have broke me, and those words could have shattered me.
I love that your dad taught you a valuable lesson.
Yes.
He taught you no matter what life throws at you, you got to keep going.
Yes.
And so when you was 15, 16 years old, having your son, his words were just planted
in my mind.
You're gonna finish school. You're gonna finish school, no matter what was happening. And that was maybe one of your first lessons of that strength.
And I think that was because, so back in the day, you get pregnant, and so you get the system stuff. You get the system stuff. You get the welfare. You get the checks. You get the WIC. You get all of that. But the fact that my father thought enough of me to say, you're going to finish school, was embedded and was engraved in me. So now I'm on the system. Now they say, go down there and get welfare. So I fill out all the forms and do all those things. And it was because of Title 20 that I was able to get my son in daycare while I still went to school.
Right.
So here I go in the 9th grade having to take my son to daycare. Then after I dropped him off to daycare, then now I got to go to the bus stop. Then from the bus stop, now I gotta go when I get out of school. Now I gotta go to the daycare, and now I gotta pick my son up. And so that was instilled and ingrained in me that I'm finna take care of my child. I'm gonna do what I got to do at 5th. Now I'm 16. I took care of my child, but then something clicked in me one day. You know, you get the welfare check, and so I had to go at that time on Kings Road. It was called C&C, and so I would go down there every month to cash my check. Something dawned on me as I looked at the other ladies with their bedroom shoes on, with their half-naked clothes, with their bonnets on their head, giggling and sniggling and talking, proud to be in the system. But something snapped in me that very day. And I said,
the devil is
a liar. I was like, this will not be me. This is not my portion. I will not be on welfare all of my life. I want a job. Something took my self-esteem to say, girl, not that I'm better than, but something rose up in me.
That fire.
Something that says, I want a job.
Yes.
I got to get off the system. I will not come every month.
Yes.
In this place to cash a check that's going to be gone in a week.
Yes.
I didn't want that. So I got my very first job. I went to Popeyes. I got my very first job at Popeyes.
Jesus.
And then, you know, after that, being saved and all that good stuff.
I love that because it speaks to you don't have to take what they're giving out.
Woo! You don't. You got to have something in you. And even though I wasn't raised by mama, wasn't raised by daddy, and raised by elderly grandparents, so it was no real values.
Right.
You know, it was do as I say.
Right.
You know, it was do as I say.
Remember
you know,
them days.
So, you know, so we was drilled in cleaning up, you know, grilled and washing our own clothes. So all of that, my brothers can cook and clean better than me.
I be trying to
better
tell
than
my
a woman.
son,
I'm
look,
telling you, my son today, he can say, Mama, all his wife could say, you good. Your mama taught you how to cook, how to clean, you know, and so those was embedded in us to do all those things. And so
I just love that because, you know, your grandparents and even your dad had enough to instill in you guys the right things. The principles. You might not have all the money in the world, or the clothes, or all these designers. I didn't have it either, but they gave you enough.
They gave us enough. They gave us the essentials. Yes. They gave us the fundamentals. Yes. And we didn't even realize it. We didn't even realize we had the fundamentals until we got grown, until we got old enough. And then me and my brothers, and sometimes my older sister, we'll sit back and say, oh my God, we are so grateful. We are so thankful.
Let me tell you, and that's probably the reason why your mom didn't like you guys so much.
I know, and so she was like, you know, you think you're better than me, and then she would verbalize, you got the car, you got this, and you got this, and every time she would come to town, I found myself defending myself, why I got this and why I got that, and when she would come to town, and then when my sisters would say, Mommy's here, my husband would say, Nita, you finna go see your mom? And I was like, yeah, that's my mom. And but she, you know, my children, she would just curse us out. You know, she would curse us out. My mom was an alcoholic. She would curse us out, and in front of my husband, in front of my children. But one thing I can always say, I never disrespected my mom. Amen. I never cursed her back. I never talked back to her. I never did any of those things. And so when mama would get in her rage and looking me up and down and doing all that, I was like, okay, mom, I just came to see you and I'm gonna go now, okay? And I would leave.
How strong do you have to be, Lord, to be able to take something, especially for someone that birthed you, and still to have your head up high and say, you know what, Mom?
I don't even know how I got that. I don't even know how I got that strength, and I count it to the Lord. I was raised not to disrespect mama, not to disrespect your parents, and I remember that scripture, and I think it's in Ephesians 6, you know, honor your mother and your father, that your days may be long. I took that scripture to heart, that even though mama cussed, she fussed, whatever, I honored her. I honored her even up until the day she left this earth.
Okay, I got to pause. I have to pause. Guys. So, as you can see, we have to pause, but the next show, next time, I'm gonna have her back so she can finish her testimony. So make sure you tune in for the next time, guys. So remember to love, pray, and be that beacon of light for the world to see, and come on back for the next time. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for having me. So they called me on August the 3rd, and they say, Miss Anita, your husband is not gonna make it to noon. We need you to get here. And so I'm hysterical. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, God, this is our anniversary. This is our anniversary. So you mean to tell me you finna, you know, take my husband on our 35th anniversary?
Let's talk. In victory we win. In victory